I'm Dustin Hoffmann of the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and this is Brazil. Come along with me on this series as I tour some of the agricultural areas of Brazil, from Minas Gerais and Brasilia to Mato Grosso and Rio de Janeiro. I will show you the farms, industries, and the people that have forged Brazil into a large player in the global ag marketplace. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this 7th episode chronicling my trip to Brazil here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffmann, supervising editor and farm broadcaster. Iowa is no stranger to the ethanol industry. In fact, as the top biofuels producing state, we often hang our hat on the ability to produce so much of the nation's biofuels and offer such an environmentally stable option, especially with the headwinds we get from the federal government and from the current incarnation of the EPA. Iowans are still working hard to produce this option for the world. Now, Brazil's no stranger to ethanol and biofuels as well. In fact, they've had it for many years. It may look different than ours, but the premise is the same. Farmers are producing crops which can be used to produce fuel, animal feeds, and much more. Today, I'm going to take you to the ethanol industry based in the state of Mato Grosso and see where it's similar and where it's different from what we see here in the state of Iowa and some of the work they're doing to take environmental sustainability even a step further. The first thing you must understand is that the ethanol industry may not be new to Brazil, but the use of corn to make the fuel is. For years, the biofuels producers there have been using a different crop to produce ethanol, and that's sugarcane. We spend part of our time in Mato Grosso visiting the country's first true corn ethanol plant, FS Bioenergia, outside of Lucas do Rio Verde. It's a joint venture between a Brazilian farm company and an Iowa-based asset management company. While sugarcane does a fine job in providing the ethanol for the country, corn does have a big advantage. We talked with Everson Medeiros, industrial director for FS Bioenergia, about that advantage.
Yeah, now we are responsible to transform corn and ethanol in DDGs here in Brazil. We are a pioneer here in Brazil because FS is the first facility that produces ethanol by corn. Typically, in Brazil, we produce ethanol from sugarcane, and ethanol is a pioneer in this area. One of our advantages that we have here, the sugarcane, we have some. We are just able to produce during like 6 months on the year, because when you have the product available or the final product available. However, for corn, we are able to storage corn for almost like 2 or 3 years. So this gives to us the advantage to run our plant like a chemical plant. So you can run like 350 days per year, so with reliability in terms of 99.6%. So it means that we are able to produce ethanol almost all year. So this is a big difference between corn and sugarcane ethanol in Brazil. This is our plan is to produce or to install 6 facilities in Brazil. Now we have Lucas, we have Sorriso, and next April we are running Primavera. Then we are planning to have another 3 facilities here in Mato Grosso state, another one in Campo Novo dos Parecis, another state on the west, and we have another plant for Querência, so it's close to the forest, Amazon forest, and we have a 6th plant that will be in Mutum, close to Lucas. So we are, our future is growth in Brazil.
By having this facility and by building more in Mato Grosso, they are helping add value to the corn their producers are growing, and they're also growing Brazil's ethanol production capability. That helps not only their own citizens, but helps them export their products around the globe. And by adding that value to Brazil's corn crop, they are seeing an increase in production within the country. And while that corn is doing well, they know it can be doing better. That's why they partner with companies like Iowa-based Stein Seeds to do research trials in Mato Grosso to get the most out of their corn and soybean production, but in a sustainable way. Now, sustainability may seem like a buzzword in the U.S., but in Brazil, it's a necessity with their environmental laws and restrictions put in place to protect the rainforest and other natural resources. We learned about the cyclical nature of sustainability at FS Bioenergia.
There is another point, and very important thing to tell you about our circular economy and why we have a green energy. Because maize is a renewable biomass for ethanol, but we have to burn those chips that you mentioned before, eucalyptus chips. And then we boil water with corn, and then we have ethanol. Between the process, we have the DDGs. But when we're boiling something, we have the steam, and then this steam, it goes to a turbine and generates energy. We have energy enough to run this plant, and the surplus energy, it goes to a power station that we have here. When you're back, look on your right, you're going to see our power station, and then we export the surplus energy to the net, and we are able to run a city with 55,000 people. Lucas, this city here, it has 83,000 people. So there energy enough to half of the city easily. Okay, so if we burn eucalyptus, you guys should realize that we need more eucalyptus year round. And we try to get information enough to farmers who doesn't have yield with crops like soybean and corn to plant eucalyptus on the sandy areas or marginal areas, if you will. But it's still not enough eucalyptus. Then we brought to Mato Grosso the bamboo from north. We learned with them which variety of bamboo is good for us. And then a city called Nova Mutum, 100 km from here, we have 10,000 hectares of bamboo already since 3 years ago. Because the first cut for eucalyptus, it's 6 years. And the cut for bamboo is only 3 years. So our plan for this year is something around more 10,000 hectares of bamboo. So we probably will have 20,000 hectares of bamboo. And we already started to burn bamboo here. So that's, the plan was start last year, and we did. So 3 years after, we already have bamboo here. Of course, we have to blend eucalyptus chips with bamboo. We cannot survive only on bamboo. All right? If we burn something, we have the ashes. These ashes from our boilers, we have some partners, and we are taking swine, cattle, and poultry manure mixed with the ashes and bring a new product, organic fertilizer, which goes back to the field for pasture and for crops. We have, if you came from downtown to here, on your right you've seen the BRF, which is Brazil Foods. So that's the huge company, and they are the biggest ones on poultry in Latin America. So we have how to feed them, but we're taking their rubbish too, and their residuum or waste, and mix with our ashes and making this product, putting back on the food again. So that's our circular economy too.
That commitment to sustainability does not stop at the facility. It's also at the heart of their partnerships with farmers. They will not do business with producers who do not follow environmental regulations of the country or sustainability practices. If a farmer does not qualify, though, it isn't too bad, so sad. They're going to work with those farmers to find out where they need to improve and help them find a path forward. It's that commitment to sustainability that has opened the door for Brazil to sell ethanol to Europe and the state of California. places in which other facilities in the United States have trouble complying.
The ethanol buyers in the world will put a carbon rating on the ethanol that's being produced.
Yes.
And so the challenge that we have in the United States with our corn ethanol is Europe, places like Europe, California, won't buy our ethanol because it has a higher carbon footprint.
You're right.
Mostly because of the natural gas pipelines and the fossil fuel that we're consuming, right? Two things. As I said in the video, this ethanol plant, there's no natural gas here, right? So they're using all renewable wood, aka those wood chips that we saw. And so that gives them a carbon rating much lower than corn ethanol in the United States, which oddly enough, these guys could sell ethanol to California, and the ethanol plant in Hartley, Iowa, where I'm from, cannot, which is weird. And Europe. So this is off subject a little bit, but one of the things that could change that is the carbon pipeline in the Midwest that gives a reduction in that carbon footprint. So that's one of the things that I think attracted the investors to this project, is that besides they had cheap corn and a lot of it, you have much lower carbon rating that opens up your buying pool around the world.
That commitment to the environment isn't just in the ethanol they produce. It weaves throughout the operation. It even goes into the kitchen and the cafeteria.
We have 300 people working here in the plant. So we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all of us. And somehow we have to take this rubbish from the kitchen. And we found out a technology that we can take this organic rubbish into a biodigester, making gas, and this gas is returning to our kitchen and cook again. And then with the rubbish from the kitchen, we do that. And we still have a liquid fertilizer which goes around our garden, but we still have some more fertilizer. We share with the mayor hall and then distribute to the locals here for horticulture. And we have our bamboos and eucalyptus plants, and we also fertilize them.
Yes, you heard that right. They're recycling their kitchen and cafeteria waste and turning it back into fuel that they can use in that kitchen and cafeteria. Not only are they doing that, but they're also sequestering their carbon, much like the pipelines that were proposed to go across the state of Iowa and do in Illinois. This Brazilian facility is pumping their carbon dioxide all the way down 3 kilometers underneath the facility. The one thing I want to leave with you today, though, is beyond fascinating, and that is this. When you go to a Brazilian gas station, you do see regular gasoline. You also see blends of ethanol, but you also see something that's the cheapest option they have, and that's basically the equivalent of E100. Now, if you go to Brazil, places like Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo or Brasilia, you're going to see a lot of cars similar to our own. You see General Motors, you see Ford, Toyota, Honda, all the companies that we have come to know here in the United States. There's not any difference between the cars they're driving and the cars we're driving. So why is it their cars can run on E100 and we have to fight to get anything above E10, with the exception, of course, of E85 and E15 9 months out of the year? Well, if you ask people in the ag and ethanol industry there in Brazil, they'll tell you one thing that's different between Brazil and the United States, and that's the absence of the oil lobby. The oil lobby in Brazil doesn't exist. Nobody's telling auto manufacturers that their equipment can't run on E100. Yes, they will admit there is a little bit of loss in miles per gallon, but that is more than offset by the savings they have per liter at the pump compared to regular gasoline or diesel. So I hope you enjoyed this look into the ethanol industry in Brazil and specifically in Mato Grosso. We have only a few episodes left in this Brazil series. If you're new to the series, I invite you to click on the cards that you see at the end of this production, and you can go back to the whole series layout or even just start at episode 1. We thank you for watching. I'm Dustin Hoffmann on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we'll see you next time. Coming up in our next episode, we sit down on the tour bus with a Brazilian ag consultant in Mato Grosso. talk about the changes he's seen and the history of agriculture in that state. It's a really good conversation, and I hope you will tune in and enjoy it next time here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.